Hello, my friends. I'm excited to chat with you all today. I've got some really good news for you, some hopeful news. And I'm hyper aware of what's going on in the world. I've been studying this kind of obsessively for about 20 years now. And, there's a lot of talk about World War III. There's a lot of talk about suffering and pain and all the craziness going on in the world. But most importantly, I'm aware that we can rise above that and we can actually be the solution. We can be the change that Gandhi talked about. So I'm going to take you on a tour today of our food forest. I'm going to share with you how we're going to change the world. And it sounds nuts, doesn't it? Oh, did I just cut out? I might be cutting out a little bit today because I'm going to go on a walk with you all through the forest while I'm sharing these solutions with you. So, first of all, I want to share with you we're in St. Cloud, Florida, at our off-grid community called Galt's Landing, after John Galt from Atlas Shrugged. And it's all about perseverance. It's about demonstrating freedom and faith and courage and solutions. Right? This is one of our homes. We just got our furniture delivered yesterday. And so this little 2-bedroom home is going to be ready to go for Airbnb here within about a week or so. And this is the view from the home. This area was just it's basically was just finished development. So we've got some rows of fruit trees and pigeon pea and peaches and plums and what else? There's sweet potatoes all on the ground there, and jaboticaba and mango and avocado and a bunch of other stuff. And anyway, and then this is the area that we established about a year and a half ago. So we'll be walking through there. But we have these Airbnbs. We invite people in. In fact, Dr. Wolf and John Baxter and I were doing a wellness center here. And yeah, a lot of neat stuff going on while we demonstrate the solutions. And so I'm going to get into details while we walk around the food forest so you can see and feel, which is even more important than seeing, that there is a solution, that we will prevail. Now, not everybody, a lot of people won't make it through the coming years, right? The poisons that have been cast on us and the deception and the wickedness, right? We're aware of it, right? I'm not going to go down all those rabbit holes. You already know about a lot of this stuff, but so I'm aware. So this is not like a Pollyanna thing. This is not something where I'm just pie in the sky. No, we're getting very strategic about this, right? And there's a lot of reasons why, right? Why do we want to do this? Well, I've got 4 daughters. And my friends, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but that's irrelevant. It doesn't, easy is, life isn't meant to be easy. It's meant to be lived. I think it's meant to be a challenge, right? It's meant to be a struggle, a hero story. It's meant to be that. So let's rise up and own it. Let's be the heroes of our own story. His story, right? Otherwise known as history, right? His story is a lie. It's a grand deception, right? So it's time to write our story and to live our story, right? Your story as an individual, free mind. That's what this is all about. That's what this life is all about. It's about waking up to the truth and then living free, claiming, owning our freedom. And my awareness of this started coming, actually about 30 years ago when I first listened to a guy Dennis Waitley. He had a tape series called The Psychology of Winning. And it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that these possibilities existed. And anyway, from then on, I was basically very passionate about learning who I am, right? Because Sun Tzu, in his book, The Art of War, he deducted, know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. If you know yourself deeply, then you cannot lose. There's no losing this game. And I've already won because I know who I am, right? We are connected. We are living an individual experience. The ego is the illusion of separation from everybody else, from God, from source, from nature, right? So when we let our egos relax a little bit and we step into who we truly are, the frequency, the energy, the vibration of God, of source, of whatever name you give the creator, that's where our true power lies. So I'm going to take you on a little walk here, and I'm going to share with you what it's like living in a food forest, right? So I think walking fast might cause more problems, but so I'll come over here. This right here is a longan tree, right? See all these fruits coming in? These are one of my family's favorite fruits. They're absolutely delicious. Yeah, once they get about 3 times this size, like about that big, then the shell turns brown. You pop the shell open, and they're just incredible, like nature's candy inside, right? This is, I'm not even sure what kind of tree this is. I love it. It'll produce beautiful fruit. I know that. This is a mulberry. Right? Mulberries have one of the most diverse genetic like structures. The fruit of the mulberry tree is incredible medicine as well. Isn't that cool? And over here, check these out. These are bananas. This is a banana patch. Now, bananas, they like communities. Look at those incredible bananas up there. Doesn't that look just amazing? So bananas like communities. So we've done it wrong. We've planted our bananas in rows before, and they just don't grow. They don't grow fast at all when they're in rows. But when they're in little circles like this, they go nuts, right? You give them a little water, a little nutrients at the beginning, and then nature takes over and does the rest of the job. This is another type of spinach. And look at this little area. My friends, there's so much food in here. There's beans and sweet potatoes and oregano. This is moringa. Right? Have you ever heard of moringa? The tree of life, the miracle tree. The seeds of this tree can purify water. There's more vitamin C in moringa than there is in oranges. There's more potassium than there is in bananas. There's more calcium than there is in milk. And there's more protein in the leaves and the seeds of this tree by weight than there are in eggs, than there is in eggs, right? And it's loaded. It's just absolutely loaded with good stuff. So come through here. This plant here, oh man, I wish you could smell the smells around here. But this is called Cuban oregano. It's soft, it's durable, and it's also known as the toilet paper plant. Isn't that cool? So come through here. Look at that moringa coming out. Listen to that. These birds are amazing. They're called sandhill cranes. Have you seen sandhill cranes before? They might. I don't want them to fly, but with my dog here, they might. Hear them? Hear them? They're beautiful. Hey, birdies, I'm not going to bother you. Just want to show you off to the camera. Isn't that amazing? Look at those creatures. So that's the other thing. When you build a natural system like this, a food forest, then the ants come because it's nice. They will want to live here. I mean, look at the birds. This is sugarcane here and more bananas. See, these bananas are in rows. This is what I was talking about. See how that's in a row there? Well, those bananas were planted before those bananas, but those bananas were planted properly. And by the way, that's what permaculture is. Permaculture is the agricultural design science that we follow to biggest yield. So by the way, if you have any land anywhere, whether it be a tenth of an acre or 1,000 acres, that's what we do. We design landscapes to be like this, to be like the Garden of Eden, to be hyper productive. 2 years ago, this place that I'm standing, nothing here, but literally it was a blank bed of sand. And now look at this landscape. Isn't this sick? Everybody can have this. In fact, this is the answer to all of the world's biggest problems. Right? And I say that, and people shake their head, and they're like, "That just doesn't sound right," because people can't necessarily right away get it through their belief systems, their BS. That simple. When we take things out of our landscapes, all we did, we take the poisons out. If that was the only thing we did was out of our lives, then we would solve all the world, because nature is infinite in its abundance. But then when we add on the design of permaculture, which is basically nature, right? Look at this ground cover. This ground cover peanut, which is a nitrogen, and it's awesome. This here is wild fennel, right? We didn't plant this plant, volunteer. Nature did. Isn't that amazing? And it smells so good. It's a medicine as well, right? More beans coming in over there, and lychee, and then here beans, and we plant a lot of these types here, and we but they're all fixing the soil, healing the soil. So sometimes a bunch of beans on the ground, and we'll just let them be ground. That will then, because like I said, we started with sand, nothing but just did. Right, come over here. Let me see. These things are amazing. Well, first of all, here's some, all right. Do you like cherries? Oh my gosh. There's I have some wasps on there. I think they're wasps. I almost grabbed a wasp. That's part of the food act. People are scared of wasps and spiders, but in reality, those are the food forest, the gardener's best friends, because they will actually garden. When we're walking through a food forest, observe and interact. In fact, that's the first principle of permaculture, is to with the natural environment all around. Mm, mm. Now, these cherries, they're called, I think there's more vitamin C fruit. They're incredible, delicious, and nutritious. Let thy food be thy medicine, let thy medicine thy food. All right, look at these. These are amazing. That's called either a hog plum or a hokote. See that beautiful thing right there? Fruit. Now I just had this for about a month ago when these things started. Mm, mm, mm. Oh my gosh, my friends. Here's life forest. My signal's okay. I need to keep cutting. I hope you get me. My here. All right. See the cote on the. Oh my gosh, we got pie here. More cherries on the cherry. Now this mulberry tree, we have berries on this thing. My daughter and I would come out sometimes day because there were just thousands of mulberries on that tree. Um, so I'm gonna sit there in one so have a signal while I more details on how we're gonna how prevail through this time. You know, we are it very that we're at war, and so that's not meant to scare anybody. It's just we are. So might as well say it. Uh, how do we overcome this? Well, when you're obsessed with something for time, you start to see it clearly. And that's been my whole pursuit. I'm gonna actually this little here. I hope and see that little that's my little meditation chair. So I'm gonna sit right in here. Ah, right in the food forest. Ah, there we go. Um, you're obsessed. By obsession is a driven. It's a scarcity. Oh darn it! It doesn't seem like a very good signal. Hoping this is coming through. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna. Sorry, folks. The best quality I can get you. While I going on. Look at this. This is a quad coming in term, which is another incredible popping up and Sava have about 200 different and medicinal. And darn. Usually I bet this morning. Rafa, are you listening? And am I coming? Huh? What was that? Is through, buddy? But is my audio coming through? Okay. Oh, audio is coming through. Okay, I'm gonna thank you, my um. All right, so I'm just gonna, which hopefully will. Yeah, there we go. This is where I have my chairs sitting in the food forest. This should be better. Uh, with meditation, thoughtfulness for this last decade, got wow. All right. I might go to the house. I've got the elevator. I can um better signal. Normally that area is good. Hmm. All right. How's this getting better? Shoot. Next week, I'll be in where I've got signal. All right. How's that better? No. Uh, Golly. Is it? Okay. I'm gonna sit right here. Sit. This is another one of our Airbnbs here. Ooh. Well, that wasn't sitting. That's okay though. Wet butt. Really wet butt. Whatever. My butt at the moment. All right, friends. Geez. So um, a lot of meditation and a lot asking, how do we over this? How do we win this war? What needs to be in place for us to defeat this insanity? And the thing I mentioned earlier is to, and because it mean, right? Well, exactly what that means. Take a deep breath and around, right? Feel hands. Feel the vibration in your hands. Feel the frequent energy in your feet. Right? When you take a breath and scan your body, what part of your body is calling out for attention? So for me, right now, when I scan my body, my stomach is calling, and it was last at like in the morning. Because yesterday I had some foods that were processed, and it was one of my old foods, these little Snyder's little pretzel thing. I've seen that store. And I had what I thought was not that much of it, a fine amount. And that stuff is toxic. I won't have that. Right. It sat in my stomach, and my stomach is kind of up around it to say, don't eat that poisonous crap. And I won't. Right. Because now I'm pension than I used to. And what does it mean to know thyself? Feel thyself. In fact, even the word know, it brings us up in our head. But when we focus on the feeling becomes the way transformation to the awareness. Right? The feeling is the gateway. So when secrets of the thinking of energy, man, I'm gonna move again. This is just horrible. Uh, he said, or I, right, best he could knew. I'm sharing is, if you want to heal yourself, feel the energy, the frequency, and the vibration. Feeling is the go up elevated. I believe I'll have where I was last through pretty good. I'm running. All right. I've got these sitting up here. And we had a huge rain today, by the way. The biggest rain that we had here. And it went fantastic. We really need the pond up a couple inches. Yeah. Yeah, this is, I think. Look at that. Oh, man. Sometimes they freeze the pieces in funny place. So then with questioning, I've come to the knowing that the food forest and nature is the solution to all of it, right? If we collaborate, work with a natural system instead of a natural system. That's the key, because the evil that is the power right now are against our natural system. They are putting poison in the system everywhere. And as you know, is not by accident. It is by design. It's tension. And that's the game that we are playing. right? It is a game of live evil, right? Live backwards, right? Like the devil never lives, it's all backwards. So to live here in this plane, in this realm called Earth, then we must work with nature and love ourselves. Dr. Wolf often says, love yourself. And he's so right. It's the most important thing. And people say, well, I don't love myself. I can't love myself. How do I love myself? Love yourself? No. Loving yourself, being present, feeling this feeling of like, well, telling, right? The way are more valuable affirmation. So, how do you feel love for you? You feel love. How do you feel when you love for somebody even? And by the way, we are all on a higher level of frequency of consciousness. We are all connected. So when you love somebody else, you're literally loving yourself. I'll say that again because it's really important. When you love somebody else, you are loving yourself. So how does it feel love? How do you feel when you feel inspired? How do you feel when you feel vibrant? How do you feel when you feel happy? Right? And let's sit with this for a little bit, actually, because this is a profound learning. It's so important. How do you feel when you feel inspired? So ask yourself, how do I feel when I feel inspired? Sit with that. How do I feel? And you know, it's interesting. Like when I ask that, the body wants to sit up straight. Isn't that interesting? The body is a reflection of we are thinking and feeling, right? It's written in our face, it's written on our movements in our body. And that's why neural linguistics is so effective, because you can see what people are feeling based on how they are using their bodies. How do I feel when I feel inspired? Oh man, I look around when I say that and I'm more present. I feel present when I say that. When I say, how do I feel when I feel inspired? I feel like I'm here right now. And I'm looking around at this amazing place. How do I feel when I feel courageous? Right? Courage is an energy that is very important. But what makes energized? The feeling of love, the feeling of inspired, or the feeling of courage, right? So test it. How do I feel courageous? Certain way. Now, how do I feel when inspired? Feel a certain way. For me, when I focus on the feeling inspired, feels like a higher version than that courage. As it is, right? Courage is the baseline, right? Anything less than courage is slavery, enslavement. So courage, if you're feeling fearful, angry, anything below courage, then your goal is to get to courage. And then from courage, you can get everywhere. So the baseline for freedom, health, and wellness is courage. It's a willingness to say, I can do this. I can overcome this. I'm not scared anymore. Fear, my friends, is the ultimate control mechanism of evil. Fear is illogical. And I've been argued many times about this subject. And then somebody says, "Oh, you're not scared of a rattlesnake?" And I smile and I say, "Not at all. I'm aware that a rattlesnake can be dangerous. I would never pet a rattlesnake. But if I see a rattlesnake, I'll look at it with respect and I will honor it. It's a beautiful creature. You know, if one's crawling around my house where my daughter is, I'll get the machete out, right? And I'll honor it and I'll say thank you, but not here, right? So there's a difference between fear and awareness. Fear never does any good for you. And unless it's at the very moment that you feel the fear and then you transform that fear to awareness, right? So next time you feel fear, be aware and then take action. That's the key. So turn fear into awareness and then take the most logical action that you can take. Somebody's got a gun to your head, you might start out with fear. I would start with a wave of anxiety, of fear. It's a response, right, to what is happening in the world. But then, and here's the transformative power of breath, right? When you go from fear, when you want to over, I'm gonna shine in the better view. When you have this fear wave come through you, oh, look at that big hawk right there. Oh, I love that. Look at that beautiful creature. Then take a breath and breathe in spirit. Breathe in, fill your lungs, fill your force energy. And why is this so logical, right? Because fear is a constriction of blood vessels. It's a constriction of creativity and ability. Fear is a constriction of spirit and of the ability to solve problems, right? So fear is the greatest thing to fear because it stops you from living. And the only way to solve problems is to action. And maybe that action is sitting quietly in a room alone, right? Maybe that action is non-action through awareness, but awareness is the action, right? So start with, and share a story that I've shared a couple of times. A lot of people ask me to share it again because for me, it was one of the most transformative moments of my life. So see these houses showing you today? Well, we did not ask the government to build these houses. And so what is, we did not get housing permits. We did not work with the EPA, criminal organization that intentionally destroying our world. Now, there are people in EPA that are fantastic and they work EPA because they want to see things happen. But at the top of the, which is Black Rock, not only the name, it's the intention. At the EPA, it is not. How could I have evil or permission? Well, I asked God permission. I'm not hearing voices in my head or anything like that, except for am hearing voices, but no, I'm not pretending like I hear the voice of God. It's all the voice of God. See, I'm hearing the voice of God, not in a way that we're hearing our own voice in our head, which we allow ourselves to have a peaceful and clear mind, a mind that is present here and now. And when you get a voice in your head that gives you an inspired idea, that's the voice of God. And cannot hear the voice of God. We feel the presence of God when we feel. That's why fear is such an important tool of the will. Right? So the number one thing is stand with faith and courage. Take a breath every time you're feeling that fear and let it go. And then you'll notice, and pay attention to this, you'll notice clarity come in mind. And then with that clarity, you desire or intend on the solution, right? Focus on and ask questions around the opposite of the problem, right? If you currently are very dissatisfied with husband or wife, ask the question, what's great about them, right? My wife and I have come to a place where we are so in love. We are so happy with each other. Now, do we see the world the same? Thank God, no, right? We do in a lot of ways. Both understand what's going on. Sometimes I drive her nuts by sharing with her what's happening when she doesn't really want to focus on that. And so I lessened that, right? And sometimes she drives me nuts when she's talking about a particular thing that, maybe I disagree with. But I ask the question, what's great about her? And why do I love her so much? And oh my God, our life now is magical. My family was in Costa Rica that past 2 weeks. And I was so excited when I picked them up at the airport last night. And my daughters, they ran out to give me a hug. And oh my God, it was just beautiful. And we went through a time, we've been together 19 years. And we've went through times where it wasn't like that. And everybody has. I have never been a married couple that has never went through some type of struggle or trauma or disagreement, right? So if your main problem is with your boss at work or with some of your employees, ask the question, what's great about this situation? And by the way, not saying that you should stick with a husband or that you're not aligned with, right? In fact, many, many years ago, we went to a counselor. Him and I went to a counselor to seek counsel because we weren't getting along. And the counselor met us together. Then after met us together, the counselor, and the counselor said to me, Jim, I think you should get out of the relationship. Woman experiencing some trauma, and unless she's willing to go through some processes to heal her trauma, it's going to be like this forever. Well, I started bawling because I knew that she wasn't the right woman for me. I knew it in my heart, and I was expecting the counselor to tell me how to sit with her and give me tips and tricks on how to make it work and all that BS. So I'm not saying that you stick with any situation, but and then the reason we do stick with situations that we know are not good for us is because of fear. Again, fear. So the number one thing to do is rise above the fear, right? Rise above it and stand with faith and courage and presence. Presence is one of the ultimate keys, right? If you haven't listened to or read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, well, it's awesome. In fact, this came out, I don't know, 30 years ago, and something like that. And when I, maybe 25, when I first heard it, well, I listened to that tape series in my car for years. I listened to it over and over and over again. Oh, thank you, Eckhart Tolle. That was amazing. So, presence, the power